My parents forged medical records to force me into surrogacy for my sister. Reddit family. When does loyalty to family become self-destruction? A life-threatening heart condition should have been enough for them to stop. Instead, they forged medical records and pressured her to sacrifice herself for her sister's happiness. Will she fight back, or will their manipulation win? Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. My parents forged medical records to force me into surrogacy for my sister. I refused, they called me selfish, and pressured my family to push me. I never imagined that I would be writing this post, but following last week's events, I need a different viewpoint. My parents abruptly contacted me after 13 years of little communication, stating that they needed to talk about something significant. Michael, 43M, my husband, was concerned that something odd might be happening, but neither of us could have foreseen what would happen. Gwen, 44F, my older sister, has always been the family's golden child. As a child, it was obvious that she was everything my parents could have ever hoped for. Intelligent, athletic, attractive, and seemingly flawless. She was frequently praised by them, who referred to her as their perfect princess, or golden apple. 2 years after Gwen's death, I was an unexpected surprise. In my parents' perspective, being unexpected wasn't my only sin. I was born prematurely and had a severe cardiac issue that had numerous operations and ongoing care during my early years. Even though my grandparents paid for the majority of the medical bills that insurance did not, my parents never let me forget how much of a financial burden I was. We could have taken that vacation if we didn't have all these medical bills. Or Gwen's college fund would be bigger if we didn't have to deal with your hospital stays, are examples of the passive-aggressive remarks they would make. Their treatment of us was a sharp and terrible contrast. My accomplishments were hardly recognized, but Gwen's little victories were honored with parties and gifts. In high school, I recall winning a writing contest at the state level. Gwen had a regular soccer practice that day, so my parents were unable to attend the awards ceremony. The everyday small things that truly brought home to them how different we were from them weren't simply the significant events either. Gwen was well aware of her status as a golden kid and made the most of it. Knowing that our parents would never support me, she would frequently bully me. When I was 12, I was shoved down the stairs by her after I unintentionally touched her science project. For weeks, I had a huge bruise on my back. My mother's reaction? You should be more careful around Gwen's things. That was it. Just another reminder that I was less valuable than her possessions, with no care for my hurt or retribution for Gwen. My only way out was to go to school, but even that was difficult. I struggled to stay up because I missed a lot of classes due to my health problems. While I was fighting to maintain mediocre grades in between medical stays, Gwen was achieving straight A's and dominating in sports. The analogies persisted. Why aren't you more like Gwen? Gwen never struggles with her assignments. Gwen doesn't cause us this much anxiety. I had figured out how to blend in as much as possible by the time I got to high school. That was simpler. Gwen already had a ton of friends, was headed to a prominent institution, and was leading the ideal life my parents had always desired for their kids. In the meantime, all I was doing was surviving each day without feeling like a total failure. Going to college was the true turning point in my life. In order to move as far away from home as possible, I pleaded with my grandparents. They were the only ones who ever truly stood by me, and they understood, having seen the dynamic unfold for years. I selected a university that was several states away, and they assisted me with tuition and other costs. I met Michael when I was a college student. He was patient, compassionate, and truly interested in me as a person, rather than as a weaker sibling, which set him apart from everyone else I had ever met. I felt appreciated and acknowledged for who I was for the first time in my life. After graduation, we were married, and I believed that I could finally be able to achieve the family life I had always desired. Gwen and my parents hardly noticed my wedding. They didn't send a card, they didn't come. I wasn't shocked, but it stung. I was embraced by Michael's family, and his mother even assisted me in choosing my wedding gown, something I had always dreamed of doing with my own mother. We made the decision to try for a child a few years into our marriage. Because of my cardiac condition, my doctors told me that getting pregnant would be quite dangerous, but we still wanted to treat it. The pregnancy was really challenging. Despite my many hospital stays and near-death experience during delivery, I barely survived and our son was born healthy. The physicians were very clear. I may die from another pregnancy. It was just too much for my heart to bear again. With our small family, Michael and I were happy. Away from my poisonous family, we had each other, our lovely baby, and a tranquil existence. My only communication with Gwen and my parents was through sporadic phone calls and holiday cards. The separation was restorative. Then came last week. My parents contacted me, stating that they had an important conversation to have. I agreed to see them at their home against my better judgment. Michael accompanied me to provide assistance. They handed me an envelope and seated us down in their living room, the same space where they had repeatedly mocked and disregarded me during my early years. There was a letter inside, but it was a surrogacy agreement, not just any letter. Gwen has been having infertility issues, so they wanted me to be her surrogate. They had already conferred with physicians and attorneys, prepared all the necessary documentation, and were presenting it to me as though it were final, as though I had no say in the matter. I was taken aback. They were aware of my cardiac condition. They were aware that I had almost passed away when giving birth to my own baby. They were aware that I could die from another pregnancy. However, they didn't care about all of it. They just cared about providing Gwen with what she desired. My mother started crying as I attempted to explain that I was physically unable of doing it and that physicians had specifically advised against getting pregnant again. She cried, "How can you be so selfish? Gwen has always wanted to be a mother. This is her only chance." My father added that after everything the family had done for me, I owed them something. What had they done for me? What specifically had they done to make me feel unworthy for the rest of my life? My grandparents paid the medical costs they loved to hang over my head. Michael and his family provided me with the emotional support I required. My parents' sole constant behavior was to tell me that I would never be good enough to be Gwen. With my mother's charge of selfishness still echoing in my ears, I sobbed as I left their home. Michael was incensed not only at their request but also at the way they totally disregarded the possibility that I might die. He advises me to stop communicating with them as they have shown beyond a reasonable doubt that they are indifferent to my welfare. I know in my heart that he is correct. This suggestion is cruel in addition to being unkind. As usual, they want me to sacrifice my life and maybe leave my son motherless in order to give Gwen what she wants. However, I also feel guilty about it. Perhaps I'm being self-centered. Perhaps I do owe them. Perhaps this is my opportunity to finally show them how valuable I am. Even though I am aware that these thoughts are harmful, they continue to race through my mind. Since that day, I have not returned any of their calls or messages. Gwen has begun contacting me as well, with false statements like, "Family helps family," and "I would do this for you if the situation were reversed." Should it be a little bit out of her way, she wouldn't even offer to drive me to school. My son is on my mind all the time. If something were to happen to me while I was pregnant, he would be the one who would suffer the most. He needs his mother and is innocent in all of this family drama. How can they expect me to risk leaving my child an orphan in order to satisfy Gwen's demands? Am I being self-centered? I've been told throughout my life that I'm bad for prioritizing my own needs. However, this is now about my son, my husband, and my life, not just about me, but I'm being tormented by guilt. I need a different viewpoint. Is it incorrect of me to decline to serve as my sister's surrogate? Should I put myself in danger to fulfill her desires? How can I handle the manipulation and guilt? Update 1: a week has passed since my last post, and things have gotten far worse than I anticipated. My family's calls and messages haven't stopped vibrating on my phone. Gwen has been sending texts that manipulate emotions nonstop. This is my final opportunity to have my own child, and I've always wanted to be a mother. "Remember how I always looked out for you when we were kids?" she even dared to ask. That one almost made me laugh. She must remember our early years quite differently than I do. She sent a particularly nasty email yesterday saying, "Mom was right about you. You always thought about yourself." I suppose that almost dying while pregnant is merely a pretext for not assisting me. It was a powerful blow. Instead of treating my near-death experience as a valid medical issue, They are exploiting it as proof of my selfishness. Even worse are my parents. I'm ruining Gwen's sole chance at happiness. Mom has been telling any relative who will listen over the phone. She is portraying me as this cold-blooded monster who refuses to assist her dying sister. However, Gwen is not dying. She is simply unable to conceive naturally. They're behaving as though Gwen's wish to have a biological kid is more significant than my actual risk of dying. This morning, Dad sent me a message that truly went too far. You've always been a letdown, but this is a new low. This is your way of repaying us for giving you life, by denying your sister the experience of being a mother. I wanted to reply that they didn't really give me life. My grandparents were the ones who covered the cost of the medical treatment that kept me alive, and they almost lost it due to carelessness several times when I was a toddler. Michael is enraged. I dissuaded him from driving to their house and confronting them. Even though I would have loved to watch him reprimand them, I informed him they're not worth it. Rather, we engaged in a lengthy discussion about our future. Michael reminded me, this isn't just about you anymore. It has to do with our son. He might lose his mother as a result of what they're requesting. Nobody has the authority to force you to take that risk. Of course, he is correct. I feel no remorse for turning Gwen down when I see our son. He needs his mom to be well and living. We have made the decision to act decisively. Let's start by blocking all of their numbers, including Gwen's, Ma's, Dane's, and even the flying monkeys they called after me. My grandparents are the lone exception, and they have always been accepting and encouraging. Second, we're investigating legal safeguards. Michael fears they may try something desperate because of their antagonistic behavior. Next week, we're meeting with a lawyer to go over our choices. I will always be perplexed by their claim to be family and their utter disregard for my life. However, I'm over my guilt. I will no longer allow them to control me. A mother who would put her life in danger to appease individuals who have never truly shown her love is not worthy of my son. Thank you to everyone who left a remark on my previous post. You made it clear to me that I'm being a responsible mother and defending my family, not being selfish. Standing up to those who ought to have protected you in the first place is sometimes necessary. I'll provide another update if something noteworthy occurs, but hopefully this will be the last one. With my true family, my spouse and Ya, who genuinely appreciate my existence, I'm prepared to go on. Update 2, I've blocked everyone for 2 weeks now. I assumed that was the last of it, but my mother managed to get in touch with me using a temporary number. Just the two of us, not Michael, need to talk. I consented to meet at a nearby cafe, even though every instinct told me not to attend. For obvious reasons, I picked a public spot, and Michael was waiting in his car nearby in case something happened. She began talking about Gwen's melancholy and how she's dying of the anguish of not being able to have children as soon as I sat down, in what was obviously a prepared speech. No, how are you? No recognition of their prior actions, just a direct focus on Gwen's misery. My mother pushed a business card across the table and said, "The doctors say this is her last chance. According to one fertility expert, you two are a fantastic fit. They are able to keep a careful eye on your cardiac health." She dismissed it as if it were a minor annoyance when I brought up the fact that my own doctors, who have been aware of my medical history for years, have expressly prohibited me from getting pregnant again. Doctors are constantly too cautious. According to Gwen's specialist, the risks are controllable. When Mom began discussing family legacy and how Gwen should be given more genetic inheritance than I did, the discussion took an even more sinister turn. She did say that, after all. "I've heard the same arguments about my being a flawed child my entire life," she replied. "I should have known you'd be difficult about this." As I got up to go, "Gwen has always made you envious. This is your opportunity to at last take action for the family." I felt oddly at ease as I walked out of the cafe. I finally saw my mother clearly for the first time, not as a parent who didn't love me enough, but rather as someone who never considered me a person, only a tool to be used for Gwen's gain. Michael inquired about how things went on the way home. I informed him of my mother's remarks about family legacy and her rejection of my health concerns. After a period of silence, he said, "You know what? They're not worthy of you. They have never done so." He is correct. They are unworthy of me, my forgiveness, or another opportunity to harm me. I've given my mother one last message. I won't put myself in danger or leave my child an orphan because of Gwen's wishes. We will not be talking about it again. Don't get in touch with me again. Tomorrow, I'm going to change my number. Sometimes quitting the game completely is the only way to win. Update 3. My father began sending increasingly threatening messages from various phones a week after the cafe incident involving my mother. I was particularly drawn to the most recent one. Your mother is devastated. Gwen is in pieces. You have given us no other option. Even if we didn't want to do this, there are repercussions for actions. My grandmother's voice was tremulous when she called. I heard your parents conversing with an attorney. They're looking for legal means to compel you to do this. They may use laws pertaining to family obligations and medical rights. Although they made reference to court orders and medical evaluations, I'm not entirely sure what they have planned. Evidently, they have persuaded themselves that they may be able to contest my own doctor's opinion because Gwen's fertility specialist claims the risks are tolerable. They're even considering attempting to demonstrate that my reluctance isn't due to valid medical concerns, but rather to illogical family resentment. Additionally, my grandmother disclosed that Gwen's 46-year-old husband is genuinely opposed to their plan. He believes that risking someone's life for this is crazy, but Gwen and my parents have essentially cut him off from the conversation. That family at least has one sensible member. I called my doctor's office right away and asked them to implement additional security measures to lock down my medical records. I then got in touch with 3 different family law businesses. The first 2 expressed sympathy but stated that they would have to look into this peculiar circumstance. But the third one was just what we needed. When the lawyer heard the whole scenario, she became enraged. They cannot legally compel you to serve as a surrogate. It would be considered reproductive coercion and would not be tolerated by any court. However, we must take the initiative. She is assisting us with creating cease and letters and preparing the necessary papers for a restraining order. Additionally, we are recording every message, phone, and contact attempt. According to the attorney, if we require legal protection in the future, we must establish a distinct pattern of harassment. The majority of our legal expenditures are covered by McKelg's company's excellent legal insurance plan. Even if it didn't, I would sell my car if I had to, he stated. Last night, he informed me, your safety is worth everything we have. The most bizarre aspect of it all is that they still act as though they are the victims and that I'm the one who is acting irrationally. As if compelling someone to put their life in danger is some sort of admirable sacrifice. My mother reportedly informed my grandma that sometimes love means making difficult choices for the family. I'm exhausted, so exhausted. But I'm no longer scared. Let them play their games and try their legal threats. Truth, the law, and real medical proof are all on my side. Above all, I am supported by individuals who sincerely care about my life and welfare. Update 4. The legal threats began 2 weeks ago, and now my whole extended family is involved in this nightmare. During their recent family get-together, which I was obviously not invited to, my aunt from Texas called yesterday and sobbed about having to see Gwen endure yet another unsuccessful IVF effort. The most unsettling aspect? The story has been entirely altered by my parents. My cousins claim that they're telling everyone that I'm just using my heart ailment as an excuse because it has significantly improved. They've even implied that I'm declining because I want to see Gwen suffer because I'm envious of her success. The cryptic Facebook postings that my mother's sisters have begun sharing about selfish family members and the value of sacrifice for family were what truly caught me off surprise. Everyone in the family is aware of who they are referring to, even though they aren't specifically addressing me. I've received messages from some distant relatives I haven't seen since I was a child expressing their disappointment with my decisions. My cousin Amanda, 39F, is the one bright spot in all of this. She personally contacted me to express her anger with everyone's actions. She wrote, I recall how they treated you as a child. They're being crazy. Don't let them guilt you into this. At the next family get-together, she even volunteered to talk about her personal encounters with my parents' partiality. These flying monkeys are unaware that last night Gwen's husband spoke with Michael in secret. He fears that because of all this harassment, Gwen and my parents will end up in legal hot water. He attempted to reason with them, but they aren't listening to anyone because they are so focused on achieving their goals. I've already made up my mind. I wrote a mass email to my entire extended family last night that had only the medical facts about my heart problem, along with a statement from my cardiologist on the risks of getting pregnant again, without any drama or accusations. I concluded it by saying that my lawyer would handle any further harassment and that I would no longer discuss surrogacy. Then, with the exception of my grandparents and cousin Amanda, I blocked every member of my family. Michael assisted me in creating new social media profiles for close friends only using a different identity. It's strangely freeing, but it seems like entering witness protection. Yesterday, my youngster questioned me about why we no longer see Grandma and Grandpa. I told him that sometimes we have to avoid individuals who don't respect our limits, even if they are family, even if it breaks my heart. After giving it some consideration, he remarked, "Like when Tommy at school doesn't stop when I say no. Children are more capable of understanding than we realize. I've learned from this whole experience that my true family isn't always the folks with whom I share DNA. It's the people who love me without conditions, who respect my right to life, and who cherish my presence above and beyond what I can do to others." Update 5. I sent out a bulk email to the extended family a month ago. The result was different from what I had dreaded, yet it was precisely what you would expect. Genuine peace is something I've never experienced before thanks to my new phone number and secret social media profiles. Through my grandma, I heard what is likely to be my mother's final message to me. "You've let this family down for the last time. You put your self-interest ahead of Gwen's happiness. You shouldn't anticipate being welcomed back." Oddly, I felt a tremendous sense of comfort instead of pain as I read those words. What I've understood all along, that my sole worth was what I could do for Gwen, was now expressed aloud. This morning, my lawyer called to let me know that Gwen was contacted by her fertility clinic. They wanted to make it clear that they had never authorized surrogacy agreements involving a person with my medical background. It seems that neither Gwen nor my parents had ever brought up my cardiac ailment. This only serves to highlight their lack of concern for my well. The most unexpected result? No more worrying about family get-togethers, dread when my phone calls, or persistent feelings of inadequacy. I'm sleeping better than I have in years. Michael also noticed, saying I'm laughing more freely and smiling more. In this brand new drama-free setting, our youngster is flourishing. We began Sunday board game nights as a new family tradition last weekend. I had a profound realization as I sat there and watched him laugh with Michael. This is how family should feel: secure, affectionate, and welcoming. Sometimes my grandmother comes to visit, but she always makes sure my folks are unaware. Last time, she brought old pictures of me as a baby that I had never seen before. As I looked at them, I saw a contented little girl who had no idea that she would spend decades attempting to win affection that ought to have been given without conditions. I'm finally providing the protection that little child needed from those who never valued her. She deserved better. I want to express my gratitude to everyone on Reddit who helped me along the way. Your remarks made it clear to me that defending myself was a matter of survival rather than selfishness. You showed me that a true family doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself for them. If you're wondering whether it's wrong to shield oneself from a toxic family, the answer is no. Your limits are legitimate, your health is important, and your life has worth. Walking away from folks who don't love you enough can sometimes be the bravest thing you can do. Since there is really nothing else to say, I will no longer be updating the story. I've closed the chapter on my dysfunctional family. With the family I've chosen, the ones who genuinely want me to live to read them, it's time to concentrate on writing fresh, healthier chapters. But hold on, shortly after I posted this update, two surprising events occurred. First, my lawyer received a legal letter from Gwen's fertility clinic. As it turns out, my parents tried to conceal my heart ailment by falsifying my medical records. A report regarding this unlawful effort at medical fraud is already being filed by the clinic. The second was that Gwen's husband had had enough. In the family group chat, he revealed how my parents and Gwen had conspired to conceal my illness from the doctors. He disclosed that Gwen was aware of my near-death experience while I was pregnant, but she had purposefully kept it a secret from everyone. The response from the extended family was prompt. Suddenly, the aunts and cousins who had been disparaging me stopped talking. My Texas aunt apologized over the phone, claiming she was unaware of the effort at medical fraud. Since then, a number of family members have stopped communicating with my parents and Gwen, describing their behavior as completely illegal. Last week, Gwen's husband filed for divorce because he couldn't stand being married to someone who would commit fraud and endanger her sister's life. My parents' flawless story about their precious child was ultimately shattered by this. Gwen and my parents have been banned from all of the medical facilities that are associated with the reproductive clinic. According to my attorney, they might be subject to severe legal repercussions for their effort at medical fraud. Seeing their flawless facade fall apart after their own deeds were exposed feels like poetic justice. Even though I never sought retribution, all I wanted was to be left alone. You are truly set free by the truth. For those who wanted an update on the repercussions, let me say that sometimes people who spend their entire life controlling other people end up controlling themselves. Gwen and my parents did this to themselves. I'm simply living my best life with folks who genuinely appreciate it while keeping a safe distance. Life often teaches us the hardest lessons through the people closest to us. In this story, she faced the ultimate betrayal from those who were supposed to love and protect her. But amidst all the pain, manipulation, and deceit, she found a strength she never knew. She had a strength that allowed her to walk away from toxicity and choose herself, her health, and her true family. Her journey is one of heartbreak, but also one of triumph. It's a story that reminds us that love is not about control, and family should never demand sacrifices that come at the cost of your well-being. Through courage and resilience, she showed us that self-respect is not selfish, it's survival. So let this story inspire you to value yourself, to set boundaries without guilt, and to surround yourself with those who truly care. If you've ever struggled with toxic relationships or doubted your worth, remember, walking away is not weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. What are your thoughts? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice for your well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with more impactful stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.